what happens in those days when I don't do it, when I give in to whatever that stupid excuse is, I feel guilty the rest of the day. I feel lethargic. I don't feel great. I try to remember all those negative emotions and bad feeling I feel, and that pushes me to go because I don't want to have a day of feeling that way. So I'll force myself to not overthink it to that point and just do it. The other thing is, if you wait too long in the day, that's when that feeling really settles in.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, MIchael Chernow. What's cracking?
What up, guys? Yeah. Welcome back to the Creatures That Have It podcast. Today's guest is a very, very, very special guest. You've seen her on the show before, but Jen Cohen and I have truly developed like a really, really cool friendship. And I mean, it's funny. Like the guys at WeDo just literally said, "Are you guys fucking related? Are you guys brother and sister?" Jen, if you don't know her, you're like under a rock because Jen's all over the place in terms of just where she does, what she does, who she hangs out with. Like she's just involved in a lot of different things, but she's an author, she's a podcaster, she's a public speaker, she's an entrepreneur. She consults with businesses across the country, potentially even globally, just like on strategy and ways to be better. Jen dropped a really cool book called Bigger, Better, Bolder.
Yes.
Bigger, better, bolder. And the thing that I love about Jen is she is fearless. She is fucking bold, and she doesn't actually care like what you have to say about her boldness and her just like veracity in life. I mean, she's fucking awesome, and I love her for it. And we've really created this cool relationship. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. And we're in Austin. We're at the WeDo studios. So, you guys will see me in a couple of different settings, the traditional Creatures That Have It setting when I'm up in New York, and then spending some time down in Austin in this new studio. But man, I am so excited to have my dear friend, Jennifer Cohen, the boldest bitch I know.
I love that. By the way, that you give the best intros because you did the intro for me at Strong New York. Remember when you were the MC? I'm telling you, like that should be like your second career. You're really good at that.
You know what I think it's from? So actually, I really do think it is from I shot a TV show, 26 episodes, and this TV show required me to do these like long walk and talks where I had to remember a script, but they wanted me to riff a little bit, always wanted me to riff. And so and it was so much shit. So I really think I think I developed my chops there with that, but thanks for saying that.
No, you're really good at it. That is in itself a talent. It's very hard to riff, make sense when you riff and have things like in sequence like that. I'm telling you should have another show, like a real show.
TV show?
Like a real TV show. Yes. See, like what if you guys don't really understand or really realize this, Michael, not to like just blow smoke up your ass, but you have a lot of hidden talents that are like just below the surface that people probably don't even really know.
Let's list them off.
Okay,
why not?
Well,
while you're there, you might as well fucking.
Okay, you're a chef, but like a legit chef,
mm-hmm.
right? A legit chef. You're also into the School of Fame, so you're like a jazz. Don't you play some jazz
tuba?
Jazz tuba.
That's true. Not many people know that.
Right?
Fun fact.
Yep. Okay, that you are kind of a style icon. You have a really good sense of style. You could do something in the fashion world, but that's really that's kind of like not even something that I would even put in the first tier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the chefery, the fitness and health, like I mean, you could have easily done like a straight.
That's not anywhere close to under the surface. I'm very flagrant about that.
No. But you could have been like a major athlete if you actually set your mind to it. Like an Olympian, if you actually no, you can't. Like, listen, you're not 12. You're not like a child. Like, you're not like a spring chicken, and you're more fit than I would like put you against any 21-year-old any day. And this is like, and you're not even doing anything that crazy in terms of like.
You know what's funny? So this is a cool thing for us to kick off a conversation about.
Are you happy with that? Did I do okay?
You just crushed that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good.
outside of the fact that you said you could have been a great athlete if you would have put your mind to it.
No. I'm saying like a professional athlete.
Okay.
You are a good athlete. You could have been an actual, like a contender.
Little side note, I am a professional athlete. But I'm just, that's under the surface. I got my pro bodybuilding card. I competed as a pro.
Of course you did. This is what
Yes, I
it's
did.
always happens.
But I wanted to just, like, I feel like you and I are, our job is, like what we do in the world is not fitness, for business, right? It's fitness is a part of our brand. People sort of like us, connecting us to this fitness thing, but it's not where you're not like driving revenue from some sort of a fitness coaching program, right? No. And so people ask me often, hey, what do I have to do to look like, what can I do to get six pack? Can you tell me how to do that? And you also are in incredible shape, right? Women probably look at you all day long and say, gosh, like, I wish I could be like that. And so what do you think it is? Because I know for sure there's no quick fix for this stuff. It's not like hey, you can pull this off in a, like, this is like, it takes years of consistency, in my opinion. But I want to hear your opinion. I think it takes years
of consistency. Fitness is definitely part of my brand. It's definitely part of my daily habit, my daily life. But it's not. I'm not monetizing on the fitness space. However, fitness is the foundation of everything else I do. And what I mean by that is, if I didn't have that as a massive foundation, I wouldn't have been able to have any success in any other area of my life. Because what fitness taught me and does for me daily, you can't get from anything else.
So what does it do for you daily?
Well, number one, initially, it gave me a sense of discipline. It taught me discipline at a young age. So that to me was always more important than motivation, because I never was very motivated at anything. I hated school. I hated this. I hated that. But because motivation wanes, fitness was like a gateway drug to everything else I did. So for me, doing something consistently every single day and seeing the progress that it made showed me, as a microcosm to everything else in life, if I just stuck to something and I was disciplined on it and was consistent with it, I'll have progress. I'll have success with it, just how I did in fitness. That's the first thing. It also taught me to be mentally strong. To me, if you're not being mentally tough and mentally strong, comes with being physically fit and physically strong. Because as you get more physically tough and you put your body through endure a lot of like pain and just like overall, like just the grit and grunt of doing it over and over again, it kind of primes your brain to be tough. And when you can do hard things physically, it again primes your brain to do hard things mentally. And to me, that is the secret sauce of really success, confidence, everything. And if you have a little bit of confidence, that gets you to the next, spot over and over again.
Do you ever run into I don't want to work out today?
Every day. So like, I don't know about you. Like I think that you probably love when you're in it. Like to me, it's like after doing it for so many years and so long now, I'm exhausted. Like also my body, like it's like I'm exhausted. I'm busier with kids and with businesses. It is hard to do that every day. But I really try not to focus on how I feel before I do it. I try to focus on how I feel after I do it, because I know no matter what, no one ever regrets working out. Even if it's the shittiest workout in the whole world, after you finish, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You feel a sense of, like, gee, I did that. I did something for myself. It changes the neuroplasticity in your brain. It primes you for productivity. That's the way I see it. Like, if I don't work out, I'm not going to be as productive in all these other things I have to do today. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to grin and bear it, get my ass to the gym or get my ass at home and do something for a minimum of a certain amount of time.
I want to dive a little deeper. A lot of people struggle with the dialogue, the inner dialogue of that moment in time that we just talked about. That moment in time when the question I asked was, do you ever have I don't want to work out today, or it's too, I don't have to do it today, or I'm not feeling as well, or the weather kind of sucks, or man, it's getting a little too close to this next commitment I have. I'll push it off. Like, when you have that, can you point to a switch that you kind of go to negate that negative self-talk, or to sort of reverse that negative self-talk to just get your ass fucking out? Because I think that if we were able to bottle that or pill that, like encapsulate that ability to, when that inner dialogue happens for 99.9% of the population, when they're faced with things that they know they should do that are hard and kind of like not fun necessarily. Although once you get to a certain point, like for me, I live for training. I really do love working out. Like, I love training, no matter what the fuck it is. I really do love it. And I don't know if that's, like a weird thing or a unique thing, but I genuinely do love it. I love it. So it's rare for me to have those moments where I'm like, man, I shouldn't work out today. As a matter of fact, it's like, man, like I have a hard time with, I'm going to try to give myself a day off. But I want to talk about that pivotal moment there where it's either you're going to go or you're not. And I know you go.
I'll go.
You go. So what is it? How do you get there?
I think for anybody listening to this podcast, I think that happens more often than it doesn't. And what you have to remember and think about in that exact moment is how you feel when you don't do it. Because what happens in those days when I don't do it, when I give in to whatever that stupid excuse is, I feel guilty the rest of the day. I feel lethargic. I don't feel great. I try to remember all those negative emotions and bad feeling I feel, and that pushes me to go, because I don't want to have a day of feeling that way. So I'll force myself to not overthink it to that point and just do it. The other thing is, if you wait too long in the day, that's when that feeling really settles in. Why? And that's why I'm a huge believer in doing it first thing, getting it out of the way so that doesn't weigh on someone. That's how I do it. If I see the clock and it's already a certain time frame, I'm fucked, because I know then like it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So if you can like remind yourself that if it gets done before a certain time frame, then you're like good to go. That to me is like a major hack. Thinking about how you like, reminding yourself in that moment how you feel when you talk yourself out of it, and how the guilt and the shame that it makes them. And people can be listening and saying like, oh, that's silly. Like, you shouldn't feel guilty. I mean, you're allowed to have, days off, and you're allowed to. No, like, to me, that's not okay. Like, I don't want to have a day off. Like, I don't think that's that. I don't need a rest day in that way. Like, maybe I shouldn't be like pounding weights every single day, but you definitely need to move your body every day. I'm not a believer that you have to be sedentary 24 hours in order to be part of like a workout regimen. That to me is ridiculous.
You and I are so similar in this way, and I have been saying for a long time, and because I truly do believe it. Like, fitness 100% saved my life, mm-hmm. and gave me the confidence to go out and take risks through courage, in the consistency of it, right? Like, yeah. And so would you say anybody listening to this podcast right now that's feeling a little lost, feeling like a little directionless, would you tell them, hey, like, forget everything else. Forget about the job, forget about the relationship, forget everything else. Start moving your body, and that could potentially just course correct everything.
That does course correct everything. I think that the best way to course correct anything is to start working out and like start taking fitness somewhat seriously, because the majority of people's mental health problems come from a lack of moving and being having your brain be stagnant right in that moment. You need to the way you kind of like fix it is by movement. It's not a mistake that the number one antidepressant in the world is working out. It's also not an accident that so many people who were former addicts of some kind, like you, right, and former whatever, to have anxiety people, depression, they fall in towards like becoming very much into like the fitness or in the fitness community, because it does change your brain. It does change the chemicals. It change the molecular structure of how you think and feel. It's like there's no if, ands, or whatever about it. And so to me, it is the number one hack in terms of for success. I mean, that is the number one hack. There's very rarely do you find people who are like super into fitness and not successful in their life in another direction, another area. I think they go hand in hand.
I agree. I mean, I think that you can be incredibly successful, make all sorts of money, millions and billions of dollars. But if fitness is not a component of that success story, the chances of you being like happy, I think, are mitigated.
Well, just think about it. Like, just think about fitness. Just think about fitness as a microcosm to everything else in life. Like, think about what it did for you, right? Or for me. We already talked and mentioned discipline, right? It also teaches you how to play nice with others, because a lot of it can be social, right? Mm-hmm. You can. It's a great breeding ground for like building relationships, because people who experience things together develop bonds, right? Like, look at you and Lance, for example, or you and whoever else, other friends. Like, you bond over that physicality, that physical experience of doing things. So like the connecting points, networking, all that you can get from fitness, just that in itself. Not to mention, of course, the idea of becoming mentally strong by putting yourself through hard things. Very important for success in financials or anything else. Like, I can name you a team build. I mean, there's so many different things. Like, also like disappointment, right? And like how things take much longer than you think it should. So for entrepreneurs, I should say this: successful entrepreneurs typically have fitness as a part of their life, because of what happens in the ebb and flow of fitness and what happens in the ebb and flow of entrepreneurship. The two are so linked together. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, I would say step one is to start doing some form of physical fitness regularly and take it seriously. That to me is like the perfect combo.
Agree? Oh yeah. I mean, you're talking to the guy who, like for me, and I've got, I mean, it's awesome for me to have someone like you sitting across the table, right? That believes in that. When people ask me, hey, can I grab your ear for some, advice on XYZ? And, sometimes I have the time for it. Sometimes I don't. But typically the way that conversation starts for me is, hey, what time do you go to bed? Literally. That's like how I kind of start that conversation, because I just know that, and there's going to be a fucking whatever, 25 people that if we chop this piece and put it on social media that say, oh, I get all my creative work done between 10 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Congratulations. You're awesome. That is just like, for me, I'm like, if you're going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis and waking up at 9 or 10 o'clock, I personally am not the right person to connect with, mm-hmm. right? There's definitely a lot of artists out there that will say, hey, like, that's when I do my shit. And I'm going to be like, hey, you should probably reach out to that person. Because for me, like, if you go to bed early, that means you can wake up early. And if you wake up early enough, you have an opportunity to like take your life by the horns. Like, if you don't wake up early, meaning after 8 o'clock, when things are already rolling, like everybody else is up and business is starting and the emails start coming in. And like, I don't believe that you should sacrifice that time of the day for the fitness mindset shit.
It's funny. You told me that before. That's such an interesting thing. So you wake up very early. And so to me, it's like you have like a separation, because it's so important to you to get that shit done, but you don't want that to bleed into like your family life or to your business life. So you basically like, so that's what I think a lot of people end up doing, right? Is that they wake up and then they fit it into their life, and then they are very stressed and anxious because then they don't have enough time, so to speak, to get all this other stuff done. So the trick is to have that extra time in the morning, like that lead time before you do it.
I'm not one of these guys that like says, you know, follow me. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You should wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you wake up at 5 o'clock though every morning?
Between 5. I mean, when I'm traveling, no. When I'm traveling, no, because I tend to be up later doing other things. And I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, if I go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I'm getting up at 5 because that's when I get up.
Well, what time did you wake up today?
Today I woke up at 6:20. And
that's still early, by the way.
Yeah, no, 6:20. But I
what time did you go to bed last night?
10:30. So I stayed up till 10:30. I woke up at 6:20. But on a regular basis, for me, I'm up typically by 5:15, and it's not because I want people to be like, "Oh, congrats!"
I know.
You know, you're fucking up early. It's actually it's truly like the life hack, because unless you don't care about like impeding on the other important things in your life, I really do. I really care. Like, I don't want to be meditating or in the fucking cold plunge or working out or whatever when like I could be sitting at the breakfast table with my wife and kids, right? Like, that for me is so sacred. And so, or when I'm at 9 o'clock in the morning, when I should be like very available for my business, like, you know, is it fair for me to do the shit that I do before everybody else starts getting up? So when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, when the birds are chirping and the light and the sun starts coming up, like, there are more people starting to get their shit together. And I'm already fucking done with the most important part of my day.
Yeah. That, by the way, I totally understand that. You've said that to me so many times before. And every time you say it, I feel like I just heard it for the first time, because it's such a great explanation, because it's so true. Like, if you don't want that to impede on the other stuff, like your kid time, your wife time, your breakfast time. But like, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Like, 5 o'clock, 5:15 is really early. Like, when you have small kids like me and I make them breakfast and I make them lunch. Do you make your kids breakfast and lunch?
No, my wife does.
Right. So like people like me, that becomes a really hard thing to do, even though I've tried these things, because it cuts right into those times.
What time do you wake up?
So like for like the longest time, my son wakes me up every morning, usually like around 10 to 7. He'll wake me up. And then I get up and I make him breakfast. I make my daughter breakfast, and then I make their lunches and the whole school thing. So if I wake up, like, I've been trying to like reverse engineer this. Like, what time do I really need to get up then to be able to still do those things for my kids, right? And it would be like, it'd have to be like 5:45, and I just can't. I don't know, like, if I don't get to bed early enough to make that happen.
So that's why I said I start every single, when somebody wants to borrow my ear, I ask them what time
Borrow
they go.
your ear.
Yeah, when they're like, hey, can I grab your ear for a minute? Or can I, I'm like, I literally do start the conversation with, what time do you go to bed? Because it is so much harder to go to bed early than it is to wake up early. Because if you go to bed early, waking up early is not a hard thing to do.
Right, but how do you get to, okay, so this is my next thing.
It's called discipline, and you just said.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, listen, I'll tell you the next thing, because what I'm doing is I'm thinking about real life, and then having discipline and maneuvering around your like people's legit real life logistics, like this. I have small kids, yet again. I can't go to bed before they go to bed.
What time do they go to bed?
Well, listen, and I got to put them to bed. And then by the time I put them to bed, I got to get ready for bed, blah, blah, blah. Like, all these logistics. My kids will go to bed now because they're 9 and 11. Let's say they go to bed at 9 o'clock. Let's just say that's when they're supposed to be in bed, right? What kid goes, like, it's all like, I'm like, okay, guys, bedtime, and they go to bed. It's like a whole rigmarole, a process. Let's say they're down, if I'm lucky, 9:20. And then I have to do my stuff. Like, why I'm saying this, by the way, and why I'm talking about this is because I think in real life, in real time, maybe not so much with men, and I guess I can get beaten up for this. When you're a mom, there's different parameters that are set on you than if you're a dad.
I agree.
Okay? When you're a dad, it's not like, when you're a mom, I have certain things that, as I feel like come first before my own well-being. I don't care what people say about, oh, you got to put yourself first, self-care, blah, blah, blah. I do a lot of self-care. I have a ton of self-love. By the way, that doesn't take away from the fact that my kids are my priority. I want my kids to be good before I'm good, right? So part of that is putting them to bed, making sure they brush their teeth and do all those things and do all that stuff. Then I can get ready and then I want to do the sauna. Then I want to do this. So by the time that is done, by the time I'm actually in my bed, able to go to sleep, is now 10:45, 11 o'clock. Let's just say on a good day. Then it takes some time to you got to fall asleep, right? So I think why I'm saying all this is I think people have to reverse engineer what's important to them. If you have kids, it's not the same as being single. If you're a mom, it's very different than being a father. And you got to take those things into consideration.
Before you dive down that, before we continue, I think we need to unpack a few of those things. One thing that I do want to say though is you are an established human being. You are a successful person. You're married a long time. You have kids. You guys, I am familiar with your established life, and it's fun and it's cool. And I know,
yeah, is that a euphemism for something else?
No, but you are. You have this what I'm talking about is your system works for you. You're not looking for fucking optimization in that way.
But this is the point that I'm making to you. That's my whole point. You just said it. The system I have quasi works for me based on the logistics and my realistic lifestyle of what has to happen. Why I'm bringing that up is everybody has to look at their logistics and their realistic lifestyle and see where they can create habits and rituals and create a lifestyle that meets their logistics and realistic life.
Yeah,
versus
but
the opposite.
But if there are people that are not happy with their current situation,
that's a whole different
story. But that's
story.
what I'm saying. That's the point I'm trying to say is if you feel like you have no fulfillment in your life, or you have very little fulfillment, and what you're doing on a daily basis is not filling your cup. You don't feel like you're getting the most out of life, right? My suggestion is let's look at your schedule.
100%, but that's a different group of people. I'm going under the assumption that we're talking about people who are already optimizing their lives for the most part.
No, I'm not. For me, I'm not imposing my fucking schedule on someone who's already killing it, right? You're killing it your way. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I'm just saying my way has, for the last almost 20 years, consistently kept me going.
No, it's amazing. What I try to, but how this happened was you're telling me about your routine, and I say I like it because that would actually breed less anxiety for someone like me, because it does bleed into this other time stuff that I have to take care of. If I can figure out a way to wake up that extra time earlier, it basically solves a lot of problems. However, my question is, how does somebody mentally prepare themselves for that? Because that's a major shift. Waking up at 5 something in the morning is a hard thing. That's why there's a book on it called the 5 a.m. Club, right? So I guess now I'm going to switch it. How did you mentally prepare yourself to have that morning wake-up call be so early consistently? It's one thing to do it once in a while. To do it on the regular is really hard.
So when I find something, I own a business called the Creatures of Habit. We are on the Creatures of Habit podcast.
What?
Yeah. So I truly am like a diehard creature of habit. When I find something that I like, when I find something that works, when I find something that ultimately over a period of time generates success and happiness in my life, I fucking do it no matter what. And I'm also, and I want to say this loud and clear, I'm also very, very grateful and lucky that I have a wife that supports that lifestyle for me, right? Yeah. My wife, now mind you, my kids don't get up till 6:30, so it's not like even if the kid, the kids don't get up when I'm doing my shit, right? So I very, very clearly know that they're up at 6:30-ish. Maybe now they're even pushing a little later as they're getting a little older. I have this time to get out of bed, take my time, do what I want to do.
What do you do? Tell me what you do. Give me the play-by-play, minute by minute, what you do at 5:15.
So my ideal morning routine, which is I'm not traveling, I'm at home, I got all my fucking tools. I got all the shit that I want. Basically, my morning routine is I wake up about 5:15, give or take. Sometimes a little earlier, maybe 5:20, but rarely 5:30. I wake up, I sneak out of the bedroom, right? My wife is sleeping, the dogs are sleeping. I sneak out of the bedroom. Now, I should say one thing that happened here. We got a puppy about 5 months ago. And when I wanted this puppy, Donna definitely wanted the puppy, but she made it very clear to me. She's like, you want the puppy, you're the fucking dad. You're taking care of the puppy in the morning. The puppy needs to go out. It's on you. I've been dealing with the kids every single morning since, since inception. You're dealing with the puppy. I was like, on it, in it, got it, So for 3 months, this whole entire system was like, I had to rework the whole thing, right? But I'll just tell you, 5:15, I sneak out of the bedroom. Dogs and wife stay in the bedroom. I go downstairs. I walk into my bathroom. I take a piss. I brush my teeth. I wash my face, put on my contact lenses. I get on my hands and knees and I pray. I have a prayer practice that I do every single morning. I do 50 push-ups and then I do stretching. And then I go into the guest bedroom where my red light panel is and I sit in front of the red light panel and I meditate. Then I go out.
Wait, how long?
20 minutes.
Okay.
Then I go out into the kitchen and I drink a big old thing of water. I refill it back up. And
you put lemon in the water?
So I used to do lemon and salt. Now I just do electrolytes. So I just pour a thing of electrolytes in there, get it out of the way, easier. I like the flavor of the electrolytes. You know the company I like.
Yeah, I know you like them.
And
we say the company?
Sure. Yeah, I love Element tea.
Yeah, everyone does.
I love
so
Element.
Popular.
I love it, and it's delicious, and it's easy, and they should send me a bunch of shit.
They should. Elemente, send us both some more stuff, please.
So then I make my way through the kitchen and into the garage, and in my garage.
What time is it at this time?
It's about typically about 5:45.
Okay.
Infrared saunas in the garage, and the infrared sauna is typically, in the warmer weather, the infrared sauna gets up to about 176 degrees. When it's super cold, it probably scratches the surface of about 160 to 162. But I go in there, and that's where I get some reading done. And so before I get super hot and sweaty, I probably read for about 10, 15 minutes. And then...
What do you read?
Right now, I'm reading an amazing book called For the Culture, but I'm trying to bang out 2 to 3 books a month. That's kind of where I'm at, and I'm reading a lot. I'm like pretty fired up about reading right now, and I go through ebbs and flows with reading. But right now, I'm fucking reading. I just finished 5 books straight in a row.
What did you read? Besides Bigger, Better, Bolder, duh. But,
yeah, I've already read that one.
Yeah.
But I read. I just finished The Art of Power, which is a really good book. Discipline is Destiny, the Ryan Holiday new book.
Was that good?
So good. It is like, I mean, for a guy like me, I tend to gravitate towards books that I feel like I'm really going to align with, as opposed to books where I'm like on the fence about, right? But Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite authors. I love everything that he's ever written, before I read The Art of Power, I actually reread Obstacle is the Way, because I love that book.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
kind of similar.
It's similar.
Yeah.
Like his writing is definitely similar.
Yeah.
But he is a huge advocate for going into the darkness. Just, you learn in the pain. And when I read something that really resonates with me, I'm like, when I read something that I'm like, that I know I'm not going to retain, it's so hard for me.
I know.
It's so hard. But anyway, I've been reading a lot of.
What's the other two? You forgot the other ones.
So I'm reading For the Culture. What's the book that I just finished reading?
So
they'll come to me.
But wait, so basically you're saying though that you're reading about 15 minutes every day in the sauna before it gets hot. So in that 15 minutes,
about 10 pages.
Right. So you're able to finish a book, like you're able to finish X amount of books by a certain amount of time.
Right. And so that's not the only time I read. I also read now before I go to bed. So that really helps me wind down. But I read in the sauna, and I'm in the sauna for about a half an hour. I get a good sweat on. The last 15 minutes of that time is either some light breath work. It's hard for me to meditate. I used to try to meditate in the sauna. When the sweat's coming down my face, it's hard, So I don't meditate in the sauna anymore, but I'll either do some breath work or I'll do some stretching. I hang over my legs for 3 to 5 minutes. And
in
then
the sauna.
Huh?
In the sauna.
In the sauna.
Okay.
And then the conversation to go into the cold plunge starts. And that conversation is never like, oh yeah, man, this is gonna be awesome. The conversation is like, dude, just go take a cold shower. You're good. You got this. This is your ego talking. You suck. You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it. This is the conversation, and I'm aware of it. It happens, and this is that mental toughness thing that you talked about, right? Like the conversation that I'm having in my head right before I go into the sauna, that happens right into the cold plunge, that happens every fucking time, is how I am literally building the mental toughness callus. I'm doing it. I do it every day. And because I've been traveling a lot, I don't get to do the cold plunge every day. But when I'm home and, sort of laid up and like in a routine, I'm in the cold plunge. And I don't do it for any health benefits. I really don't. Like I can care less about the health benefits.
Right.
Although I do love the immediate like sort of de-inflammation of my body when I get in there. And I love the way I feel when I get out of there. But I'm not doing it to like regulate anything. I do it because it's fucking hard. And I like doing hard things. And that's just a trait. I can't tell you why, but I just fucking do. Because I do believe that like, patience is arguably one of the most valuable like characteristics that someone can have on a regular basis, right? And it's also one of the most challenging. Patience is so hard. To truly have patience, where like the shit is not happening in your time. You start doubting yourself. You think it may fucking crumble. People around you start telling you that you're not going to be able to do it, or if you've kicked the tire long enough, kid. Like patience is what has gotten me through everything. And without mental toughness, patience doesn't exist in my life. So I do things to try to continue building that fucking callus, right? So I go into the cold plunge every single day. And once I get out of the cold plunge, I walk right past my little wall mirror there. I take a glance at myself and I say, you got this, kid. Go fucking get him. And then I walk into the kitchen. Do? Basically.
Okay, first of all, I always find this interesting. Your routine doesn't involve any exercise.
No.
So that morning, because normally a morning routine like that, when people are waking up at 5:15 in the morning, would entail their workout. Mm-hmm. So all of that's done without even working out. So when are you then working out?
I give myself about an hour and a half every single day carved into my schedule like a fucking meeting, because it is what makes me successful. So I have said to myself, if I can point to the one activity in my life that over the last 20 years that is a direct line to my success in business, it's fitness. And I don't believe that I have to fit fitness in before work, because fitness is what makes me work better. So fitness is considered in my calendar as a work meeting.
Like a work meeting. That's a great, I love that. That is so true. See, so you have two routines then, because I feel like the workout is the hardest part.
I have three, but I'll tell you the third one when you're done with your thought.
Okay, I was gonna say like the workout is the hardest part. So you're not like, why are you not starting with that so you can get it out of the way? Because that to me is like the tough thing in the sense, and even if it's for you, because you have to like, work your way up to it. Like you're like lifting hard and heavy, because I know how you work out. How are you able to do that during the day? The idea of like sweating and like then like getting dressed, getting your day on, and then having to go back and like get your clothes off and start, like, to me, the hardest thing is for me is working out. So therefore I do it first thing, because I don't want to, like, once I'm dressed and showered, to have to do that whole thing again. It's easier for me to actually do it again if I did it once, because my body, I'm in that, like, it's like now my brain is primed to work out more and do more. It's the other stuff that's so easy for me, like the sauna and all the other stuff, like that routine stuff. I can do it later. Like I look forward to that.
So
stuff.
that's interesting, because you and I are different there. Like I used to work out first thing in the morning. Literally, I was up at 5. I was in the gym at 5:15 when we lived in the city.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have
all the stuff.
I didn't have all this stuff. I wasn't like, I still had like my morning stuff, my prayers, my light meditation. But what I realized was all the stuff that I just talked about.
Yeah.
The way I compartmentalize it, where I don't think that stuff is absolutely necessary. I can't point to that stuff as like a very clear reason as to why I've been successful in my life.
You mean the sauna and all that?
The sauna, the cold.
I agree. Exactly.
So if I don't do that in the morning, but I love that. Like I love doing that.
Yeah.
If I don't do that in the morning, that will absolutely 100% get thrown to the wayside. Fitness for me is a non-negotiable. Doesn't matter where I am in the world, no matter what time. I have to do it. And some people will say to me, "Hey, dude, that must be stressful." And I'm like, well, maybe for you. Like everybody's entitled to their own opinion, right?
Well, it's a non-negotiable for me too, which is why it's important to do those non-negotiables early on so it 100% gets done. Because like the more your day goes by, the less of a chance that there may be a snafu or something happens where you can't get to it.
Yeah, see, so another thing that I'll say, and this is absolutely not everybody has this luxury. I've been a business owner for 16 years. Mm-hmm. Right? 15 years. 2010 was when I opened my first business. So
is that the meatball one?
Yeah. So 14 years is really when I started my business. I have now put in time to be able to completely own my schedule. I don't work for anybody. I got nobody telling me what to do. I fucking make my own schedule. The success or the failure of any business that I've created is honestly on me. It's on me. So it's my decision to see what is going to work and what is going to not work.
Yeah,
and
I totally hear that.
I have created this 1.5 hour chunk of time that I believe is 1000% driving the success in Creatures of Habit. And so what I've done is my office is in a gym.
Ah, well, that's the case. So,
but that no.
I didn't know that. What do you mean? So, where is your office?
It's at my CrossFit gym. It is. It's at my CrossFit gym. I have.
What do you mean your CrossFit gym?
The gym that I work, the CrossFit gym that I work out at. They literally were building out office spaces in the back for like a massage therapist, a physical therapist, a nurse practitioner.
Wow.
And they said, "Hey, would you want to take an office here?" And I was like, absolutely.
That's brilliant. I love that idea. So I didn't know that your office was in a CrossFit
Yep.
box.
So that makes a difference. In the beginning of the pandemic, I was working at a home, and then I got an office, a private office in like a co-working space in Hudson, and I was there for a little over a year. And when the guys over at Lumberjack Athletics said, "Hey, man, like we'd love to have you here more. Like, would you want to be here?" And I was like, and everybody in there is on Creatures of Habit. They love, I'm like, that's it, done. Like I love it. I literally. I love so my life has revolved around this passion for wellness. It just has, because and wellness I think is a very loose term, right? But anyway, I want to talk about.
I'm going to say something to you about that because I think that's interesting, because my entire life is based around wellness too. Like in my house, if you didn't know any better, you would think you're going to like a wellness resort, because my house has that's all I have in it. I have a room upstairs of red light panels, right? Not to mention all the other red light stuff I have. I have in my office, just so I'm reminded, I have a treadmill beside my office, beside my desk. I also have a portable infrared sauna in my office. And then across from my office, I have it at my gym. And then I have my cold plunges outside. And then, I have those discs, those like purple, like the sliders. Mm-hmm. I have those all over the house, so that I can do like a couple minutes here and there. Cause I'm like, I like to maximize the time. So if I'm making like my eggs in the morning, I will do something like I'll do like lateral lunges, or I'll do push-ups, or like with, with those arms, like to kind of like give it a little bit more spice. I have things placed. I have mats all over my house.
And you have a full gym in your house too.
And a full, yes, but it's called like, it's basically, for me, it's if I see it around and it's available, it will remind me, here, I have a few minutes right now, or in 1 minute I can do my push-ups, or I like the pull-up bars, so I put those around the house.
But I just want to mention something. So people that are listening to this podcast could potentially, and I think a lot of people understand the lifestyle, right? But that listen to this podcast, but maybe if this podcast was, let's just say, on like, I don't know, some other fucking podcast that was not like a kind of like a culturally lifestyle focused wellness, fitness kind of thing, they'd be like, that must suck. Like always feeling like you, and the truth of the matter is,
but it's not, it doesn't suck for us.
It's amazing.
I mean, it may seem obsessive to some, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But it's not obsessive to me, because for me, don't forget, let's take, my first company I ever started was called No Gym Required. No Gym Required was based around these healthy habits that you could basically saying that, and I never ever would say the gym is a bad thing. I would always say the gym is fine if you want to go, but it's not required for you to live a healthier life. And so for me, it's about giving people these like simple solutions that they can do every day to be a little bit healthier, a little bit more fit. Like, it's just like, it's like these micro bites of fitness, these micro bites of like healthy habits. And that's how you do it. It's like limbic friction. You put these things where it's visible, so it reminds you, here, you can do this. Like, to me, that's what it really is. Like, in my opinion, like what I'm going to tell you a story. I had dinner the other night with a special forces guy from the UK. Do you know anything about like I think it's called the SVB?
I remember you telling me that you were going to do that.
Well, his name's Dean Stott, and he's like talk about a badass. I mean, insane. Like, this guy is like Delta Force, but on steroids. Like, that's what
the elite of elite.
The elite of elite. It's like higher than Delta Force, really. And
he lives in LA.
No, he lives in LA. He used to be like, he's like done crazy missions around the world. I mean, he's like the crazy shit. And he's never lifted an actual weight in his life.
Wow.
Ever. And we talked about this.
Do you believe that?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. We talked about this at dinner because he does these mental mind tricks. We'll say, like, he'll wake up in the morning and be like, you know what, today I have to knock out 1,000 push-ups. Doesn't matter how and when, but I'm going to knock out 1,000 push-ups. So he puts these things in his brain, and he makes it happen. So then in that day, that's how he's working out. He's going to knock out 1,000 push-ups. He'll wake up to 100, have breakfast, do an errand, do another 100, whatever it is. But that's how, and through that, he is the fittest motherfucker you'll ever see in your whole life. They did this whole,
you're looking at.
I mean, besides you, I mean, that's duh. I mean, like, of course, that goes without saying. But he'll do that with pull-ups. He'll do that with like crazy things. Like, he'll give himself like a mission, like a workout of the day, body weight or otherwise. And I will put him against anybody who just lifts weights all day, because body weight strength is bar none much harder to do. Like, pull-ups are the hardest things in the world versus doing like a weighted, like you can. I mean, there are other things that are very difficult, but those keep you incredibly fit.
Mm-hmm.
If you could do pull-ups, like the real pull-ups, like consistently, and you can do them all day, I mean, there's nothing, I think, for your core, for your upper body. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a true test of strength.
It's a true test of strength.
Mm-hmm.
So they even did these, like they even did these things, like they put people, like he said, when they were like trying people out for these, when they were going through like not tryouts, but like through like the training for these special forces. Mm-hmm. And the people that were just like gym rats, they could not only could they not keep up, they were the first ones out, because they couldn't keep up mentally, physically. They just did not have the strength, the functional strength. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's how he's done it. So why I'm saying this is a really great thing for people to do to get them started, or for them to really improve their physical fitness, or to get their mindset in check to live a healthier, fit lifestyle, is put things in front of you that remind you as a reminder, like, hey, you know, you don't have to do these long, arduous hour workouts, but you know what? Put a pull-up bar up, and every time you walk through it, do 5. And if you do that like 5 times a day, guess what happens, right? How many have you done? And those are hard. And if you do that 5 times a week, 7 times a week, now you're talking about building real strength and real upper body strength. If you another simple one is like get a mat, put the mat like where you go eat breakfast. And when you see that mat, that's a reminder to do like planks and do like a push-up or whatever it is, right? Like I'm saying just these little mental reminders and these little visible mental reminders can take you a really far away. So why I do it for myself is like, I enjoy it. Like, I think it's a challenge. I think it's very challenging. Like when I'm like, you know what, I'm here anyway. I'm waiting for the water to boil. I might as well just, knock out another, 20 of this or 20 of that. And it will improve my strength and my fitness. As you get older also, it's harder and harder. And to me, I'd rather do these like little bouts of workouts than these long, arduous workouts. But sometimes I do both because once I do that one workout, I'm like, hey, I can do more because I'm so much more like for me, it's the stop is in the start. But once I start and it's already part of my like system, I keep on going. I can go all day.
It's like so much fun to sit here and have a podcast with someone who I'm genuinely interested in. And like, I know, meaning like, I'm really curious to know what goes on in the head of Jen Cohen. Like I really am, because you're a unique person. If you had to say that there was if you had a superpower, really, I'm not saying, you would be able to freeze people, but like, what would you say your thing is? Like, you've done a lot of shit. You've crossed a lot of different boundaries over the course of your career. You've written books, you've talked on big stages, you've worked with some of the coolest people in the world, you've started businesses, you've sold business. I mean, there's just so much shit that you've done. Why do you think you have been given this opportunity? Like, what's your superpower?
I'm unabashedly afraid to ask for what I want and to...
How does that show up?
I always come back to like, what's the worst that can happen? I think also when you walk through the world, like genuine. I think it comes down to being genuine. I don't think that I think that, let me back it up. I think number one, what my superpower really is that I think I have a high EQ. I think that I read people, I read a room really well. And
do you think you have a high EQ, or do you have a high EQ?
I believe I do. I mean, this is my opinion, but like, I feel. But
can I, wait, I'm going to just do something here. You and I are friends, so I can just do this. Why would you say I think or I believe? Why wouldn't you just say I have a high IQ, high EQ?
I'm trying to be polite. But I will say,
But you're the bold.
But you can still be bold and polite. There's a difference. Just because you're bold, there's a misconception, by the way, that just because I'm bold, that I'm not shy. Because funnily enough, I'm very shy, but I'm still very bold.
But you obviously have a fucking pinnacle EQ. So why wouldn't you just say? Because I have
humility. That's why. Humility. I don't
think having confidence in a skill set that you are obviously very strong at is downplaying it is a sign of humility. I think this is cool thing and a cool thing to point out, because we're just riffing and I think it's good. I have literally been reframing a lot of when something comes out of my mouth, like in business, Jonathan and I will be talking. And I'm like, well, if we hit this number, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say if. I'm going to say when we hit this number. And I've been doing that a lot. And so I just like heard you do something that you know is true.
Yeah.
You know it's true. You know it's very, very, very true. I asked you what your superpower was. And you said, I think.
I think I did it because I wanted to come across having humility and not being braggadocious.
Or do you think it's something that is a pattern that you could fucking stop doing? Because that it's not braggadocious when somebody asks you, what's your number one strongest skill
Yeah,
set?
no, I guess that's it's a very true statement. And it's really funny because I'm very involved in helping. One of the big passions of mine is to like build self-confidence and self-esteem in like young children, right? And that's like a big project that I'm working on, and I want you to actually be involved. And part of it is, it's I can get into that in a second. Part of that is self-talk, right? Like there's a bunch of pieces of it, but a lot of it's how you talk to yourself, how you frame things to yourself, like how you think of yourself, right? And part of that is not saying, oh, I think, right? It's about like having that belief system and knowing. But with that being said, part of having a high EQ, which is emotional intelligence, is having also humility. And I find it to be very unattractive when people are braggadocious. So I'm hypersensitive to it. Because I'm hypersensitive to it, I then take the caution of playing it down versus playing it up. Now with you, I don't have to be doing that, and it's probably not necessary, but that's probably how it ended up that way. That's probably why I did it. But I will say, with all honesty, I believe my superpower is having a high EQ. Also being, like I said, being able to read a room and knowing how to connect to somebody and meeting them where they are. And to me, that is the first piece of knowing how to work your bold. It's one thing to be bold and be like a bull in the china shop and be very abrasive, but it's another thing is when you can blend having a high EQ, understanding how to relate to people and deal with people, and then having that skill of being bold. That's like a 1-2 punch right there. Mm-hmm. But you can't have one without the other. I mean, you can have a high EQ, but you can't really be effective with your boldness unless you have the ability to have some self-awareness of how you come across and how you occur to other people and relate to people, mm-hmm. right? And, last night I went out to this thing where we're at South by Southwest, and there was a woman there who is very bright. She's had a lot of success. She's made a lot of money. And she was a friend of a friend. And what was so astonishing to me was how she was occurring. So I thought, God, like she came across like she was such a turnoff to a lot of the people. She drank too much. She was speaking too close to people's faces. She was like weirdly abrasive. When people like drink too much and they're like have that wine glass and like it's swinging in their face and the wine moving in the glass. And to me, it was such an ugly look, right? It was such an ugly look, and like clearly, like all I was doing was like I was observing this whole dynamic and how she was occurring to other people and the lack of self-awareness that she had. And I was like, my God, like how is this woman, like how has she had so much profound success when she like kind of carries on like this, you know what I mean? But she's academically very smart, right? But her street smarts need improvement, right? So I think there's a difference, right? Like to me, I'm very street smart. I'm not academically very smart, right? I've gotten by on my street smart. I've actually because of school, that friction of how I had to deal with school made me more street smart. You know what I mean? She was like top of her law school, blah, 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 blah. But like in a public setting, my God, that person needed help. Like, you know what I mean? And so you know what I find very interesting right now, by the way? You've worked on your listening skills. I don't know if it's because you've like actually actively worked on it. I'm just noticing it now because the last time we've done this, you would interrupt me so much. Now, I don't know, is it hard for you to sit there in silence? Or
No, I'm like...
You're actually listening with like intention.
This is my hand position when I'm doing that.
Oh, you're like...
I'm just very... like, I'm into it.
Okay, good. Last time you could not stop yourself.
Well, I also probably... that was probably over a year ago. It was like a year and a half ago. I got a lot more podcast, exposure.
Like experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is that to me was so uncouth and so not attractive as a person trying to do business with people. So I think, again, like even the fact that like how I was like spending my time just like watching and observing and like my perception, to me, I gather so much information from that and then act accordingly. That to me, and a lot of people do that and they enjoy that, but then I take that information and I process it really fast in my brain and then I act accordingly. So I think that that's part of the superpower. Not I think, I know that's part of my superpower.
So like, I just want to say that because I think that reframing right there was like a very good catch. And also, I would never, if I listened to you or met you for the first time, I would never ever think like, oh God, she lacks humility. Like she's like, I know that I'm this. It's like, no. The person that you are, the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate, the way you conduct, every single person that meets you knows that you have a super high EQ. Every single person. And so I like that for me, that also, like you and I are so much alike. It's just, I said it a few times because it's so true, right? Like the ability to walk into a room and not conform to what's happening, but completely be able to acclimate to any situation, like quick as like fire, right? Like, you're not going to kiss anybody's ass. You're not going to like sit in with the rest of the crew, but like being able to like totally be comfortable in a situation where whether it's, Barack Obama, Billie Holiday, or like the bum on the Bowery, right? Like you could just figure out what has to happen to make that person feel comfortable in your presence, not kiss ass, not like whatever, brown nose, but like you're going to make them feel comfortable around you. You're going to like, that is a skill set that I think is so awesome. And I fucking have it proudly, motherfuckers.
You do. You're good at it too. You're really good at that too. Also, okay, I'm gonna layer this a little bit, right? I think that I'm like very much who I am. Like, I'm not a fabulous dresser. I'm not this. I'm not that. I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. And I think that to me is I know that's
I just gave you something.
Thank you.
I did.
I know I think that's an attractive quality. I think, again, things that so I try not to be things that turn me off in people. And I like people who are comfortable in their own skin, right? Like you're very comfortable in your own skin, and that to me is like a very attractive quality. So that's how I feel I am too. Like, I'm not trying to be everything to everybody. I'm just me. And I know in my head that water will find its level. So like, I don't try to like impress people. I don't try to like make people like me. Like, that's just not my thing. And I think, I believe that people like appreciate that. And the third thing is curiosity. I'm exceptionally curious. I'm too like crazy curious.
So let me just stop you there for one more second because we're playing this game. So you didn't feel, the way you phrased that, you did not feel like curiosity was a braggadocious word. So you said, without even thinking, I am incredibly curious. I'm very curious.
I'll tell you why. Because when I was a kid, people would make fun of me for like asking too many questions. Like people would be like, one of my friends would always say to me, no matter whatever anybody responded with, my next thing was why? Like, I'm a boy. Why? Like, people would make fun of me because I always wanted to know why, how much, I'm just crazy curious about everything and every detail, minutia. Like, when you were telling me your daily routine, it wasn't enough that you were telling me your daily routine. I wanted to know how long you were in that sauna for, what book you were reading, what temperature was the sauna? When you got out of the sauna to go into your cold plunge, how long was the duration of time before you actually talked yourself into going into the cold plunge? What did you have for breakfast? Well, like, how long were you praying for? How many push-ups did you do? Like, that's where my brain goes. Like, everything has to be so detailed. Like, I like to know everything. And I think a lot of people like to talk about themselves, and I think they like when other people are interested in them. And to me, that's, I guess, I do it naturally. It's not forced. I'm not doing it asking you because I think I should. I'm doing it because I genuinely want to know. Like, no matter what, like my girlfriend today, she called me super early. She's like, I got to talk to you. I got to tell you about this thing. I got to blah, blah, blah. Can we go for a walk? She's out also at South by Southwest. And like, it took us like 45 minutes to get to like the intro of what she was trying to tell me because I had to ask like 57 questions. But again, it's like people appreciate people caring, right? Versus like not interested, looking over someone else's shoulder. Like I find that to be another turnoff. So I don't do that to people. And I actually want to know. So I think all of those that combination, I know that combination is why I've had success in my life. Not to mention, I'm unabashedly not scared to ask for what I want and be bold. But you can only be bold with all those other things and be successful.
Honestly, I think you and I probably, well, we will have a podcast together because this works so well. And I think if there was just like topics that like fed into this, it would just be a banger show. I don't think I'm so goddamn confident in that.
See, you said I think. You kept on saying I think. So I think it's part of how we were like, how it's like, it's very much rolls off the tongue. That's how people are like they talk. Like
totally, but that's why I said
not on purpose. That just happens.
Exactly, and that's why I said I think. That's why I said, is it a pattern that you're just used to saying, having not 100% confidence in what you say, who you say you are? And you're right. And I do it too. I brought it up because this is something that I have been actually mindful and conscious and self-aware of, specifically when I talk about business and goals. I'm also not one of these people that like set monthly goals, quarterly goals, yearly goals. I literally am, and I feel like you're probably the same way. Like I set like a 5-year vision. I know exactly where it's going. I know exactly what it's going to look like when we get there. But between now and 5 years, I completely leave that for myself and the people around me to build and create. Because I know for sure that like in a 5-year period of time, I am and the team is going to change our minds. And forget it, even if it's fitness, if it's business, if it's health, if it's relationship, it's whatever. Like the amount of times people change their minds and the shit fucking gets tossed to the right and tossed to the left and then under a fucking wave and whatever. Like for me, setting myself up for failure by saying, this is what we have to do by this date, and this is what we have to do by this date, and this is what we have to do. I way more rather say, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. And of course, like the marketing person is going to have a marketing plan and the financial person is going to have a financial plan. But I really do like to leave a lot of room for failure.
What do you think your superpower is?
My superpower is the ability to connect with human beings at scale. And I genuinely care about people.
Yeah, at scale. You're right.
That's what it is.
At scale.
At scale, like as much as I can. Legit. That's what I want to do. That's what I love to do. That is what wakes me up every day. That's where my hunter instinct really feels most fulfilled.
I forgot about that too. God, you're a hunter. I forgot about that as another thing that you do.
But I'm a hunter for connection. I'm a hunter for connection. I also love finding shit and learning and having challenges, but really what I really believe my superpower is the ability to meet somebody, connect with them immediately, and develop a relationship.
So why do you think you're good at the connecting immediately?
I don't think I am.
Okay, why? Okay, so what do you why do you know you are? Like, what's that? How do you do it? Or do I? Yeah.
I don't. It's not like this is why I know I'm really good at it and why it is a superpower. I don't ever think about it.
Yes. Great answer. People say to me all the time, how do you connect with, I'm like, I don't know. It's not, I think what that really means is it's not contrived. It's not that it's not that it's like this like strategy. You're doing it because you're just naturally doing it, just how you would like walk to the bathroom. Right? It's not part of like any bigger grand scheme of things.
Right. There are some people that really find true pleasure in opening up the computer and opening up a spreadsheet, and just like it really drives like true fulfillment for them to figure out a fucking a spreadsheet.
Who does that? Like
a lot of people. Like there are people that genuinely love writing code for computer programming and software. Love it. Like genuinely love it. There are people that genuinely love building an engine. Like just fucking live for it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And
different strokes.
Different strokes. And so, I think the person that I've known this for a long time. You've known it for a long time. That this is what it is, right? And the reason why you and I have been able to have a bunch of different facets to our what you would call brand is because our number one thing is people. Our number one thing is connecting with people. So if we can have a bunch of different interests that make connecting with people easier, it's not, that like if there was if people wasn't the thing and somebody's number one passion was making money, that was their number one driver, number one thing, they would focus all of their energy on whatever it is that makes them the most money in the world.
It's so funny you say that because that's why I'm so shitty at operations. I'm so shitty at the operational part, like logistics of business. And
Me too.
I have to find people to do that.
100%.
I'm so much more preoccupied with the relationships and the sales of it, the marketing of it, because to me, it's very much connecting. Like it's much more of a people job. So,
and by the way, so I just want to say, I listened to this. And this was said to me. This was said to me a long time ago. But I listened to a podcast with Nick Bare, the founder of BPN Supplements, and Sam Parr.
Who's Sam Parr?
Sam Parr had he's an entrepreneur, but he's like he had a newsletter or like a blog, like a daily or weekly blog called The Hustle.
Oh yeah.
And he sold it to HubSpot.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
And so now he's sort of like in the entrepreneurial circuit, that like the exited, like higher net worth exited entrepreneurial circuit, yes. Those guys.
Yeah.
And he said, full transparency, like I didn't appreciate him that much. Like I didn't like a lot. Like I like a lot of the things that he said, I was like, no, that's actually not accurate. What
did he say?
Oh, that like, there were just a few things that I was like, there's some truth to it. Not that he was lying, but like I kind of like, he said like, oh gosh, like you're an entrepreneur for the first 5 years. Doesn't matter how much revenue your business is doing. You're paying yourself $50,000 a year. And I'm like, bullshit. That's not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Like you're not paying yourself. So he made
a blanket statement that every entrepreneur pays
themselves. Like most
entrepreneurs,
like everybody thinks that startup entrepreneurs or even with a successful business, they're so rich, they're so wealthy. Like they're lucky if they're making $100,000 a year or $150,000 a year. Most of them are paying themselves between $50,000 and $80,000. And I just don't. This is not true. It's just not true, right? Like.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So there was just things. I mean, I he's also like a very, very like direct guy. But I heard Sam Parr say, the people that are able to create the brand and build the community and build the culture and see it and have the vision, you can't hire those people.
Yeah, that's impossible.
You can't hire them.
But that's also what makes a company valuable, right? Like you have to build a community around Creatures of Habit that will like just are diehards. By the way, I have to say something because I'm looking at that hat now that you're wearing and the sweatsuit that you sent me about Creatures of Habit. This is a whole other thing. I should save this for my podcast, but I'll say it twice if I have to. You need to do a clothing line that's like that stuff. That's how you use your sense of fashion and style. That sweatsuit that you sent me, my husband was like, this is a really nice sweatsuit. Where did you get this? I'm like, looking at it for like 5 minutes, I was like, I have no idea like where this thing came from. And then I saw the Creatures of Habit logo and I was like, of course it was you. Of course it was Michael. It was it's really nice.
Thanks. Did you put it on?
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Super cozy.
And by the way, even the hat that you're wearing that you sent me, I love the hat. The shape of that hat.
It's good shape.
Amazing.
Thanks.
And people don't realize, like, I get a shit ton of these hats all the time. I can't wear them because they have that what's that part called? The front
brim?
The brim is like too
Straight.
narrow, too straight, too flat, too big. Perfect.
Thank you. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Share this podcast with anyone you'd like. It'd mean a lot to me. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Until the next one, y'all. Creatures Have a Podcast is out. Love you. Peace.